I wouldn't change.
You wanna change?
Out of all the fine arts in the world, music is first.
Eric Donaldson isn't just a reggae legend. He was a truth teller. Before his passing, he dropped some hard-hitting insights about how the music industry really works. Exploitation, unfair deals, and the pressure artists face. In this video, we'll walk through his journey, the moment he decided to speak out, and what he revealed. By the end, you'll get why his words mattered, not just to reggae fans, but to anyone who cares about creative freedom. So, lean in, because Donaldson's story is more than music. It's a warning sign. Who is Eric Donaldson? Eric Donaldson is one of reggae's most enduring voices, but to understand why he later spoke out about the music industry, you need to know where he came from. Born on June 11, 1947, in Kent Village, Jamaica, he grew up in a community rich with culture and music. From a young age, Eric showed a talent for singing that would eventually turn into a legendary career. He started recording professionally in 1964 at Kingston Studio One, a place where many of Jamaica's future stars got their start. Not every track he recorded was released, but it gave him invaluable experience and exposed him to the inner workings of the industry. Early in his career, Eric joined a vocal trio called the West Indians, alongside Leslie Burke and Hector Brooks. They scored a hit in 1968 with the song Right on Time. The group later changed its name to the Kilowatts, but they never achieved the same level of recognition, and Eric decided to pursue a solo career. Donaldson's solo breakthrough came with the Festival Song Competition in 1971. His entry, Cherry Oh Baby, won the competition and became a local classic. The song's appeal crossed borders, eventually catching the attention of international artists. The Rolling Stones covered it in 1976, and UB40 recorded their version in 1983. Winning the festival multiple times, in 1971, 1977, 1978, 1984, 1993, and 1997, earned him the nickname Mr. Festival and cemented his status as a reggae icon. Beyond the Festival Song Competition, Donaldson released numerous albums throughout his career, including his self-titled debut, Kent Village, Freedom Street, and Blackman Victory. His music consistently reflected his connection to Jamaican culture and his community, often highlighting local experiences and social themes. Even decades into his career, he continued producing music and influencing younger artists. Donaldson's impact goes beyond music. In Kent Village, he has been a mentor, supporting youth programs and local schools. He also runs a bar named after his famous hit, Cherry Oh Baby, which serves as a cultural hub for the community. This shows his dedication to nurturing both music and people around him, a commitment that extends beyond the stage. His signature falsetto and heartfelt lyrics made his music instantly recognizable. More than that, his career reflects resilience, authenticity, and the courage to remain true to his roots despite the pressures of the music industry. Understanding Donaldson's journey from a young talent in Kent Village to a celebrated festival winner provides context for his later statements about the challenges artists face. He had seen the industry up close, and that perspective would later make his words about exploitation, unfair deals, and industry politics carry real weight. In short, Eric Donaldson was not just a singer. He was a community figure, a festival champion, and a witness to the inner workings of the reggae scene. Knowing this side of him sets the stage for the revelations he would later make, showing that his criticisms came from experience and a deep love for the music he dedicated his life to. Donaldson's industry journey. Eric Donaldson's climb in the music business wasn't easy. He didn't just walk into a studio, record a hit, and ride off into the sunset. From his early days, he witnessed both the highs and lows of the Jamaican music industry, and that experience would later fuel his hard-hitting truths. Donaldson got his start in 1964, recording demos at Kingston's famous Studio One. Not every track was released, but it gave him valuable experience and a behind-the-scenes look at how the industry worked. Early in his career, he joined a vocal trio called the West Indians with Leslie Burke and Hector Brooks. They had a modest hit in 1968 with Right on Time. Later, the group changed its name to the Kilowatts, but they never achieved major recognition, and the group eventually split. Going solo was a risky move, but Donaldson pursued it with determination. He submitted Cherry Oh Baby to the 1971 Jamaican Festival Song Competition. Initially, the song faced rejection from some producers, yet he persisted, and ultimately, it won. That victory launched him into the spotlight and demonstrated his unique blend of musical talent and cultural resonance. Winning the festival multiple times, including in 1977, 1978, 1984, 1993, and 1997, earned him the nickname Mr. Festival and cemented his place in Jamaican music history. Working with notable producers like Byron Lee and Alvin G.G., Ranglin allowed him to expand his reach. Yet, even success came with frustrations. Some of his songs did not receive the airplay he felt they deserved, and he saw how industry politics often favored a select few. These experiences showed him that talent alone was not always enough to get ahead. Donaldson also had to balance art and survival. He took on various jobs outside music to support his career, from mechanical work to other odd jobs. That exposure to real-world struggles gave him a grounded perspective, allowing him to see the music industry from every angle: artist, worker, and dreamer. Over the years, he released dozens of albums, including Kent Village, Freedom Street, and Blackman Victory. Even after decades, he continued producing music and mentoring younger artists. He urged them to create meaningful songs rather than chasing trends or gimmicks, emphasizing the importance of substance over style. Donaldson's understanding of the music business went beyond making hits. He knew the power structures that governed contracts, promotions, and royalties. He observed how foreign companies and influential producers often controlled the flow of profit, leaving artists from marginalized communities at a disadvantage. Yet he remained committed to his craft and his community, supporting youth programs and staying connected to his roots. By experiencing both the rewards and the setbacks of the music world, Donaldson developed a deep understanding of the system. This perspective made his later revelations about exploitation, unfair deals, and hidden industry practices carry weight. His journey wasn't just about songs and albums. It was about surviving, thriving, and observing a system that often works against the very people who create its art. In short, Donaldson's industry journey shows a man who persisted despite setbacks, stayed true to his music, and witnessed the inner workings of the business from every angle. Knowing this context helps explain why his later words about the music industry were more than opinions. They were lived experience. The turning point. At some point in his career, Eric Donaldson moved from being a celebrated reggae singer to someone willing to openly critique the music industry. The shift didn't happen overnight. Years of frustration and observation built up until staying silent no longer felt right. One of the sparks for this change came from how he saw the evolution of festival songs and reggae itself. Donaldson became vocal about the decline in lyrical depth. He argued that many newer artists focused on catchy beats over meaningful lyrics. For him, music carried responsibility. It could educate, uplift, or speak to real-life struggles, and that responsibility was being overlooked. Frustration with the treatment of his own work also contributed. Even as a veteran with numerous albums, he noticed that some of his music did not receive the airplay or attention it deserved. The system often favored commercial pop over substance, leaving thoughtful, carefully crafted songs in the shadows. These experiences shaped his perspective on how talent alone often wasn't enough to navigate the industry. Donaldson also observed changes in the festival competition itself. What was once a platform to highlight emerging talent had, in his eyes, started to reinforce existing power dynamics. The institutions meant to elevate artists sometimes ended up restricting them. This insight gave him a front-row seat to the challenges artists face beyond creating music. Beyond artistic concerns, Donaldson had lived experience with the practical side of survival in the industry. He worked odd jobs while pursuing his music career, learning firsthand how hard it could be to balance passion with income. He understood that even recognized artists had to contend with the realities of contracts, producers, and business decisions that did not always favor the creator. With that insight came a sense of responsibility. He began mentoring younger artists, encouraging them not to chase fleeting trends, but to create music with depth. For Donaldson, songs should leave a lasting impact, not just provide a moment of entertainment. He believed music could be a tool for cultural preservation, education, and inspiration, rather than merely a product to fill dance floors. Donaldson also framed his critiques as acts of care. He saw himself as a custodian of Jamaican musical identity, By pointing out commercial pressures and industry shortcomings, he aimed to defend the essence of reggae. His goal was not to stir controversy, but to maintain integrity in the genre he loved. This turning point is significant because it shows a man who had seen both sides of the business, the artist and the system, and decided to speak up. His observations were not idle complaints. They were grounded in decades of experience and first-hand knowledge of how the music world operates. Speaking out carried risk, but Donaldson believed it was necessary for the health of the industry and the artists within it. In short, the turning point represents Donaldson's evolution from performer to outspoken advocate. His decision to speak openly laid the groundwork for the later revelations that shocked fans and fellow artists alike. Understanding this moment is crucial to appreciating why his insights about the music industry carried so much weight. The truth he exposed. When Eric Donaldson began speaking out, he did not shy away from the hard stuff. He exposed parts of the reggae industry that many prefer to ignore, and he did it with the authority of someone who had seen it all. First, he pointed to financial exploitation. Donaldson was well aware of how artists were often paid once, then left to fend for themselves. He criticized practices where producers paid flat fees to musicians, rather than structuring deals for royalties. This wasn't some minor gripe. It's a systemic issue that leaves many artists without long-term income, even when their songs become classics. He saw this happen not only early in his career, but also continued to view per-track, one-time payments as deeply unfair to creators. He also raised questions about rights ownership. According to Donaldson and others, many old contracts gave producers not only the master rights, but also songwriting and publishing rights. That gives producers a massive share of control and profit, even for works that are fundamentally the artist's own. These legacy contracts meant that, decades later, original artists might not enjoy the full financial reward that their work could generate, especially as their catalog grows in value. Donaldson's critique extended to how power structures favored certain players. He sensed that foreign labels and influential middlemen benefited most, while artists from underserved communities were often marginalized. To him, that disparity wasn't just business. It was a moral problem. He believed talent should matter more than connections, but he saw how entrenched power could distort who succeeds. Beyond money and control, Donaldson warned about the creative cost. He argued that too much commercial influence diluted the kind of music that really mattered. For him, reggae was more than a beat to dance to. It was cultural, spiritual, and intellectual. When industry insiders chase profit above all else, they risk turning music into a shallow commodity. Donaldson challenged artists to write with logic, meaning with purpose, insight, and conscience, not just catchy hooks. He also critiqued the festival system. Donaldson saw how it had evolved, from a platform that uplifted genuine voices to something more transactional. In his view, the festival contest had lost some of its original spirit, becoming less about elevating art and more about reinforcing the status quo. He believed the institutions designed to support emerging talent were sometimes perpetuating existing hierarchies rather than breaking them. Donaldson didn't make these observations lightly. His insights came from decades in the trenches. He had worked with producers, toured internationally, and recorded dozens of albums. He understood the business from every angle, as an artist, a creator, and someone who had to negotiate both stage time and survival. He also used his platform to call for change. In interviews and public statements, he pushed for fairer deals, transparency, and respect for artistic rights. He encouraged younger artists to demand better contracts and to think long-term. He believed that reggae should remain rooted in its community and that the people creating the music should benefit from it, not just those who control distribution. Donaldson framed his truth-telling not as bitterness, but as love. Love for reggae, for his community, and for the next generation of artists. He understood that speaking out carried risk. By exposing industry issues, he risked being labeled difficult, out of touch, or ungrateful. But he did it anyway because he believed the system needed accountability. In sum, Eric Donaldson's revelations were not complaints from someone past his prime. There were warnings from a veteran deeply invested in the music's legacy. He called out exploitation and structural inequalities, and challenged both artists and industry players to do better. His truth wasn't just about what went wrong, it was a call for a future that honored the creators, the culture, and the craft. The backlash and reactions. When Eric Donaldson started speaking openly about the music industry, he knew he might ruffle feathers, and he did. His candid critiques did not sit well with everyone, especially some producers, executives, and artists who felt exposed or criticized. But Donaldson never shied away from the controversy, and his willingness to speak the truth highlighted both courage and conviction. The first reaction came from within the festival circuit. Organizers and industry insiders were taken aback. Many had grown used to a culture of compliance and rarely faced public criticism from a respected veteran. Donaldson's claims about unfair payments, limited airplay, and exploitative contracts hit close to home. Some insiders tried to dismiss him, suggesting that his perspective was outdated or overly harsh. Among fellow artists, the response was mixed. Younger musicians often appreciated his honesty. They saw him as a mentor figure, warning them about pitfalls they might not yet recognize. Some veterans, however, were defensive. They interpreted Donaldson's words as an accusation or an airing of grievances that could reflect poorly on them. Still, even critics had to acknowledge his decades-long experience in the industry, which lent credibility to his statements. Fans reacted in large numbers. Social media amplified his voice and gave a platform to those who had long wondered about the inner workings of reggae music. Supporters praised him for highlighting systemic problems that many had suspected, but few had dared to voice publicly. Comments ranged from personal anecdotes about unfair deals to admiration for Donaldson's courage. He became a lightning rod for discussion about fairness and respect for artists. Not all feedback was constructive. Some critics accused him of being bitter or attempting to rewrite history. A few argued that the industry's challenges were simply part of the business and that artists needed to adapt rather than complain. Donaldson, however, consistently framed his critiques as constructive. His goal was not personal gain or drama, but to spark reform and encourage transparency. The controversy also drew attention from international music communities. Reggae enthusiasts, music historians, and journalists took note of Donaldson's statements. Many highlighted the importance of addressing structural inequalities and ensuring that creators are properly compensated. Discussions emerged about intellectual property rights, royalties, and how older contracts can disadvantage artists years later. Donaldson's stance sparked public debate in Jamaica and beyond. Media outlets picked up the story, reporting on his remarks and analyzing the implications for younger artists. Interviews and opinion pieces circulated widely, raising awareness of how long-standing systemic issues affect reggae and other music genres. Through it all, Donaldson remained calm and measured. He did not escalate conflicts or attack individuals. Instead, he focused on the larger picture, the need for fairness, accountability, and respect for creators. He encouraged younger artists to educate themselves, negotiate smarter contracts, and never accept being undervalued. His response to Backlash was a model for how to speak truth to power while maintaining dignity. Ultimately, the backlash and reactions reinforced Donaldson's influence. By standing firm, he not only sparked conversations about fairness and ethics in music, but also reminded the world that veteran voices carry weight. The debates he inspired ensured that his observations were taken seriously and that his perspective would remain part of reggae's legacy. Lessons for artists. Eric Donaldson's experiences offer more than just a cautionary tale. They provide clear lessons for artists navigating the music industry today. His journey shows that talent alone is not enough, and that understanding the business side of music is just as important as mastering your craft. The first lesson is the importance of knowing your rights. Donaldson repeatedly emphasized that contracts can be tricky. Early in his career, he observed artists signing agreements without fully understanding the implications, sometimes giving away rights to royalties or ownership of their own songs. His advice to new artists is simple but critical. Read contracts carefully and, if possible, get guidance from someone you trust before signing. Second, persistence matters. Donaldson faced multiple rejections in his early career, from studios and producers who didn't recognize his talent immediately. He joined groups that didn't last and submitted songs that were initially turned down. Yet, he never gave up. His persistence led to his breakthrough with the festival song competition and a lasting career. For any artist, this is a reminder that resilience is key, even when the path seems uncertain. Donaldson also teaches the value of integrity. He encouraged artists to write songs that matter, rather than chase trends or commercial gimmicks. Music that is genuine, reflective of your values, or connected to your culture will endure longer than a fleeting hit. He referred to this approach as creating songs with logic, emphasizing purpose and thoughtfulness. Mentorship is another key takeaway. Donaldson invested time in guiding younger artists, sharing both successes and mistakes. For emerging talent, having a mentor can provide perspective, avoid pitfalls, and offer practical advice about contracts, promotions, and artistic direction. He demonstrated that even established artists benefit from dialogue and community support. Financial awareness is critical as well. Donaldson highlighted the challenges of one-time payments and unfair royalty splits. He encouraged artists to plan for the long term and understand how revenue is generated from recordings, performances, and publishing. Being proactive about finances can prevent exploitation and ensure that your work continues to provide income years after its creation. Another lesson is the importance of advocating for yourself. Donaldson's willingness to speak out against unfair practices shows that raising your voice can spark change. Advocacy is not just about protecting yourself. It's about shaping an industry that values creators and treats them with respect. For artists, this means negotiating contracts, speaking to management when things are off, and learning the levers of influence in your field. Finally, Donaldson demonstrates that cultural stewardship matters. He reminded artists to consider the impact of their work on communities and the larger musical landscape. Reggae, for instance, carries cultural identity and historical significance. By respecting and preserving these elements, artists honor the art form and contribute meaningfully to its legacy. In short, Donaldson's experiences show that success requires more than talent. It demands resilience, knowledge, self-advocacy, mentorship, financial savvy, and cultural awareness. He proved that artists can build long-lasting careers while staying true to themselves, and his guidance remains relevant for anyone stepping into the music industry today. Legacy and lasting impact. Eric Donaldson's contributions to reggae go far beyond his chart-topping songs. While he is celebrated for hits like Cherry O Baby and Land of My Birth, his legacy is equally defined by his advocacy, mentorship, and the lessons he left behind for artists and the industry as a whole. A significant part of his impact lies in his record as a festival champion. Winning the festival song competition 5 times earned him a reputation as Mr. Festival. These victories were more than accolades. They showcased his ability to craft music that resonated with Jamaicans and preserved cultural pride. For younger artists, his record demonstrates the value of perseverance and thoughtful songwriting. Donaldson's influence extends into mentorship. Throughout his career, he guided emerging artists, encouraging them to write with purpose and demand fair treatment in their business dealings. His willingness to share experiences created a ripple effect, helping new generations avoid common pitfalls and embrace the principles of integrity, resilience, and cultural awareness. Many artists credit him with inspiring them to prioritize artistry over fleeting trends. Another aspect of his legacy is the awareness he brought to the inner workings of the music industry. By speaking candidly about exploitation, unfair contracts, and the challenges of navigating a system dominated by powerful intermediaries, Donaldson encouraged transparency and dialogue. His public reflections pushed industry stakeholders to consider reforms and reminded fans to value the creators behind the music. Donaldson's work also strengthened the cultural significance of reggae. He consistently highlighted the importance of meaningful lyrics that reflect social issues, national pride, and personal insight. His insistence on writing songs with purpose helped preserve reggae's depth in a time when commercial pressures threatened to dilute it. His influence encourages artists to think about their music as both a creative expression and a cultural document. Internationally, Donaldson contributed to reggae's recognition as a global force. His songs were not confined to Jamaica. They found audiences abroad, introducing international listeners to the richness of Jamaican music and culture. By maintaining high standards of musicianship and authenticity, he helped position reggae as a respected genre on the world stage, beyond just entertainment. Donaldson's longevity also speaks to his adaptability. Over decades, he navigated changing trends, technological shifts, and evolving audience preferences. Yet, he remained true to his vision. His ability to stay relevant while staying authentic is a lesson in career sustainability for any artist. It's a testament to the power of combining talent, wisdom, and commitment. Ultimately, his lasting impact is twofold. He leaves behind a body of music that continues to inspire, and he provides a blueprint for artists to approach their careers thoughtfully. His advocacy, mentorship, and example have shaped the way both fans and artists perceive the music industry, setting a standard for honesty, integrity, and cultural pride. Eric Donaldson's legacy is a reminder that influence extends beyond chart positions. It is found in the lives he touched, the lessons he shared, and the culture he helped preserve. His work continues to resonate, not only through music but also through the conversations he sparked about fairness, creativity, and respect. Reflections before his passing. In the final years of his life, Eric Donaldson reflected deeply on both his career and the state of the music industry. These reflections were thoughtful, candid, and in many ways, a summation of his decades of experience. He had achieved legendary status, yet he remained grounded, focused on the lessons music had taught him and the truths he felt compelled to share. Donaldson frequently spoke about the importance of integrity and purpose in music. He observed how commercial pressures often pull artists away from their core values, encouraging them to prioritize quick hits over lasting messages. In interviews, he emphasized that staying true to oneself is more rewarding than chasing fleeting popularity. This reflection was rooted in his own journey. He had resisted the temptation to compromise his musical vision and had seen the benefits of doing so over the long term. He also revisited his critiques of the industry. Donaldson expressed concern that many talented artists still struggled to navigate contracts, royalties, and recognition. He warned that without knowledge and preparation, even gifted musicians could find themselves exploited. These were not complaints, but guidance born from hard-earned experience. He wanted the next generation to avoid mistakes that had been so common in his own early career. Donaldson's reflections extended to cultural preservation. He viewed music as a vehicle for identity and storytelling, particularly reggae, which carries history, social commentary, and national pride. In his later years, he advocated for songs that honor cultural heritage and convey meaningful messages. He encouraged artists to consider how their work affects listeners and contributes to the broader musical landscape. He also spoke about mentorship and community. Donaldson found purpose in guiding younger musicians, offering advice on both creativity and career management. He believed in sharing knowledge generously, understanding that the sustainability of reggae and other musical traditions depended on passing experience forward. His reflections underscored the value of community over competition, emphasizing collaboration and support rather than rivalry. Donaldson addressed personal satisfaction as well. Despite industry challenges, he found fulfillment in the music itself, the act of creating, performing, and connecting with audiences. His reflections showed a man who measured success not only in awards or sales, but in the impact of his work on listeners and fellow artists. He believed that true achievement comes from contributing something enduring. In interviews and statements, he sometimes spoke about mortality with a quiet awareness. Donaldson recognized that life is finite, and he used that perspective to reinforce his messages. Be authentic, advocate for fairness, and value your contributions. His honesty about aging and legacy made his insights even more compelling, offering a final, heartfelt perspective on what it means to be both an artist and a witness to an industry that has always been larger than any one person. Ultimately, Eric Donaldson's reflections before his passing serve as both advice and inspiration. They remind artists to approach their careers with wisdom, integrity, and cultural awareness. They encourage fans and industry players alike to recognize the value of creators and to honor the work that shapes not just charts, but communities and history. Eric Donaldson was more than a legendary reggae singer. He was a voice of honesty, a mentor, and a guardian of culture. His truths about the music industry challenge us to see beyond the hits and understand the effort, creativity, and risks behind every song. By speaking out, he inspired both artists and fans to value integrity, fairness, and the power of meaningful music. As we celebrate his legacy, let his life remind us that talent, perseverance, and courage can leave a lasting impact long after the music stops.